So Arnaud Becart is up next from IP Label. He's going to talk about end user monitoring.
Is it working, the sound? Okay. You're probably wondering why IP Label is a premier sponsor, and it's the first time we're at Velocity, of course. One first question, raise your hand, who did know IP Label before yesterday? Okay, not so much. So typically why I'm here. So I'm going to be quick, just have 15 minutes. So to talk about end user monitoring. So what I will do is talk about business case, user case, and how some of our customers, mostly in Europe, have used our solutions. We are a French-based company, mostly in Europe. We have more than 1,000 customers, and we are specialized really in the end user monitoring. So we're going to see real user cases in a lot of topics around web performance. I'm going to be quick on each of these slides, and of course, after the presentation, feel free to come on our booth to review more about each of these topics. So first, before the cases, how to do in end user monitoring. I don't know if yesterday some of you followed the web performance conference in the afternoon from Stefan Serre, talking about difference and questions about should we do synthetic testing, should we do real user monitoring. And for us, the answer is not choosing one or the other, is to do both, because each have differences. And the reason why is 500 seconds is not 11 seconds. Of course, that's obvious, but putting that in the graph, one of the solutions, Cloud Observer, shows very clearly that in the real life, we get 11 seconds, whereas from synthetic tests, from our solutions, but even other vendors, you get ideal test, I would say, about 5 seconds. So typically, we're going to see within the different user cases that sometimes the real user monitoring is more applied, and sometimes the synthetic ones is more. The first case about web, well, web, of course, very complex, but if you think about it in an end user perspective, finally, you get metrics, and you analyze the results in not such a technical way. So to measure the web, of course, you need to take into account any kind of website, simple but rich website as well. You need to take into account the time it takes to start loading the page, very critical from end user perspective, because you don't want to spend a lot of time in front of a long page. You want to measure the full page or the onload page of your site and the full particular intent that can really apply. So for that, synthetic tests are very well known, very well used, and provide a lot of metrics. And what the key for that tools is to provide you the good diagnostics, the good response times, the good indicators, so you can really take the benefit of such solutions. And also benefit from the user monitoring, sorry. Code optimization, also follow your SLA with your third party. One of our French customers who have a very really simple case where he improved his performance using our tools, who have just changing a web server configuration, moving to HTTP 1.0 to 1.1, enabling the keep alive. Thanks to that, all the connections that were initially closed, and he didn't know about that, for each of the requests were not closed anymore. And so it's really speeded up the website. And from the end user point of view, it was about 30% of performance improvement, just doing that simple change. On the global scale, for each country, he did that page optimization and CDN implementation, and he saved about 40% of performance for each of the locations. That's for web. But of course, users also, it's not new for you, users are everywhere. So you need to really consider that users are coming from everywhere, but also they are moving. And some of our customers have asked and have implemented monitoring solution in a real mobility case, because when you are on your mobile, of course, you're not just staying at home, you're also traveling. And also users expect different response time depending on the locations. You do not expect to have the same speed if you're in Tunisia, if you're in US, if you're in Scandinavia. So typically you have also to have different thresholds depending on the location, the country. But location, of course, is a key metric, but it's alone, it has really no sense, because location is also really dependent on the context of the usage. So you need really to clarify for each of these users, wherever they are, the context of usage, because the last mile is not a backbone measurement, because low bandwidth and unlimited bandwidth or actual bandwidth available for the user are not the same. The processing time for the user's workstation are not the same depending on the device, the terminals. The carriers, the operators from country, even inside the country, are not the same. The mobile versus fixed users, the different type of device. So all this can bring to different type of analysis. So synthetic tests are good where your users are, so where you can put some investment and effort in analyzing that. But the real user experience gives you all the performance for all your users, but you have really to be able to qualify each of these users, knowing do they have a good bandwidth. If they are downloading some video file at the same time they are looking on your website, well, of course, that's, there is no point in having a really slow response time. You also need to qualify the capacity of the machine itself, of the device, the smartphone, and so on, because it can be an old one or a very new one. You need to qualify the type of terminal, and also you need to separate from this user, real user monitoring, the synthetic test, because of course that's one of the additional tests that these pros will measure. But also, one of the contexts I didn't mention is the browser. Browser also has a very major impact on the web and the different response times. So taking into account all the browsers is something one of our customers did. For him, he had more than 34 browsers to consider for its critical users, and mostly an online retailer, so he has a lot of visitors and is driving a lot of revenue from the web. So anytime a browser is not available or is very slow compared to the other one, it's loss of money for them. So thanks to real user monitoring, that can identify really quickly for each browser and in each version if there is a lag in the response time, or if there is also a difference between different releases. Because from one release to another one, of course, sometimes a browser or a specific version of browser in a specific context will show some really slow response time, like this example in that case. So to measure the browser, you need to be sure that they are all compatible with your web application and that they are fast. And this for the first time, but for the repeated view as well. And you need to really observe the real browser in real context of usages. So synthetic testing is a good way to evaluate few critical browsers to get baselines, but real user monitoring is the only way to get a really and truly exhaustive view of the different response time. And also, like I said, it's also a very easy and I would say almost cheap way to check that the performance is good on every browsers and all the browsers. You don't have to spend time and days and weeks on validating all of the browser if you do not have the time or the money to do that. Talking about browser, we also have mobile browsers, because mobile users are also very critical ways to focus on the performance. We have a very good case today in Spain with a bank that decided to benchmark different devices, iPhone, iPads, and different operators. And so they decided to do synthetic testing to do that permanently, comparing the same transactions from real device, because real device itself has a really strong impact regarding the processing, regarding the time between an action on to open an app, to go to browse a website. But mobile itself also sometimes is not enough. Sometimes some customers need to take into account the mobile usage plus additional data usage, such as SMS, voice messaging system. So all to combine. This is a technical example you've got here, but we managed to simulate the piloting of real device at the same time as any other data or web applications. Also, because mobile devices are very changing a lot, and as well as for operating system. And just a short example we retrieved from a customer recently. The last iOS showed really, if you compare to a very old OS, you had a 60% performance gain. So this also has to be taken into account. New device, new OS are not the same than older one. So testing mobile, why mobile testing is so complex? Well, because it has a cost. You need to implement robots to pilot your device. You need to take into account the mobile networks. But still, it's critical. It's growing. It's not surprising for you. So today, the synthetic testing is something that really works very well. But also, real user monitoring is a very good way to get the first view on your mobile performance, because all the smartphones that now are interpreting all JavaScript. With that solutions of real user monitoring script-based, you get almost instantaneously the performance for all the devices. Mobile, we can all talk as well about web application internal, because today more and more web applications are used within the company. So what about the usage for internal users? So some customers also have deployed some testing inside their internal environment to test web application, to test web services as well, which is part of the communication between applications. So again, to monitor, to be really representative of the end user, you should be exactly at the same, with the same browser, the same workstation, the same CPU, really to be representative of your users. And when we talk about internal application, we are not talking about conversion, abandonment, and revenue. We're talking about productivity. Can your employees do the job quickly? So that's also another critical part to take into account with test solutions. This can be done with synthetic testing, but also the real user monitoring can apply internally. One of our customers did that, a French customers with online shops, but also physical shops, 82 shops, a lot of workstation, and to put robots anywhere for any shops, any workstation, they will have to. Yes, it's okay. Thank you. So typically they did choose for a real user monitoring solution, which in a few days and a few weeks really gave them results. Some results, well, the main result was that they speed up the global web response time for that internal web application from 30 seconds to 6 seconds by making upgrades, hardware or software on browser, and some validation as well on the application. CDN also is a very typical subject for the end user monitoring. First question to ask yourself or your companies, do you need a CDN? Second question is how to justify the cost for such solutions. So typical example in China, where a CDN solution added up to 66% less in the response time, so very quick and easy afterward to detect, to measure the return of our investment. And also, it's good to be able to benchmark, to compare between CDN providers before pick up the best one. And this is typically what we're doing in France, for instance, with Akamai, who is able to compare with or without the origin or CDN servers on the same transactions. So I'm going to click on the CDN to go to the next slide. About CDN, so CDN test can be done with synthetic real user monitoring. One point I want to pinpoint as well is the video content. A lot of CDN provide video content. Video is also sometimes now very critical, YouTube or video. So this is something you do not want to have to wait for 1 minute to start viewing your video on YouTube, especially if it's a webcast with real time. But by the way, I'm filming right now. My boss is probably looking at me, so I do hope he can see me very well, and he has not a poor frame rate or a poor bandwidth. So hi to him. And another case of video is video for mobile, because of course now you view your video on your tablets, on your iPhones, so you have to be able, and this is what we did in Belgium, for instance, to check that video quality and speed up is very good from these devices. So I've got a lot of stuff on video. I won't spend too much time, but we can go very far. Please come after to talk about that, about image quality and all the type of tests we can provide. We can talk about voice. I've got some cases as well where we talk about speech quality, combining voice and data application. So as well, I will go very quick on that. Cloud monitoring is also a very hot topic, as you know. What I would just mention is usually you see a lot of 99.9 guarantee uptime on cloud vendors. A recent study we did on online benchmarking showed that we didn't reach that just for the connection and authentication, so just the access to the service, even not the usage of that service. So really, SLA is a key part with the cloud vendors. And another key part is you can put robots to test this this environment with synthetic tests, but real user experience with a script base is today the only way to get an exhaustive view for clouds, because you cannot put an appliance or analyze the logs, of course, when the platform is not in your control. To finish, a lot of data, well, of course it's good, but too much data won't be for any use. So for some of customers, we have provided really synthetic dashboard. And for us, the best would be actually to combine the user satisfaction based on real users with the actual satisfaction, plus the key metrics from your business, such as conversion or revenue, and most importantly, be customizable. You need a customized report that really applies to your goals, to your company. So thank you for listening. Please, we are just here to talk about our solutions, and we will be happy to talk to you. Please join us on our booth, and also we'd like to celebrate since a few days even, the new acquisition of SiteScanner in Scandinavia that reinforce our positioning as a #1 in Europe in the end user experience monitoring. Thank you very much.